things off. All right, so welcome. Happy holidays to you. I hope that your Christmas shopping is further along than me. I think I'm over halfway, but I'm at the stage where I have to like make the list and check it twice to make sure I haven't missed anybody. Yeah, so wish me luck, and I wish you luck too with holiday shopping. Okay, cool. So we're gonna go ahead and jump in and get started. If you're new, I'm gonna be painting with you every step of the way, and we'll go ahead and jump right in. So the first thing we're going to do to get started is we're going to decide the orientation of our picture. So we are going to do horizontal today, which is landscape. So if anybody wants to change the orientation and do it this with me, this way, feel free. All right. So we are going to paint the background green. So who can confirm what color green I mailed to you? Can you confirm if it was phthalo green or if it was light green? Phthalo green?
Light green.
Light green. Okay. Light green. So this is a beautiful soft green that's going to be perfect for tonight. So I want everybody to grab your plate, and I want this background to be a green that you like. It does not have to be this green. So I'll tell you more about that in a minute. So take about a thumbnail's worth out, like literally a thumbnail's worth, and put it right on your plate. Now, if you like this green, go for it. We're just gonna paint the entire background this color. So you might want a little bit more. However, if you want to lighten it up, if you want to get a little crazy and put a little blue in it. Did I send you phthalo blue or did I send you the blue lake? I think I sent you phthalo.
Blue lake.
Blue lake. See that? I don't even know what I'm talking about tonight. It's okay. I got blue lake right here too. So blue lake is really nice. So if you mix a little touch of blue in this green, it could be really pretty. So I'm not going to add too much, but I'm just going to add a tiny touch. I want you to find a background color of your choice. Now you might even want to add a touch of white. Now we're going to need all that white paint tonight. So don't go too crazy with how much white you use because we're going to do candy canes and stars and stuff. But we're going to use our big brush, the biggest brush I sent you. And we're going to make a background color of choice. So I just put a tiny touch of blue. It's always fun to mix colors. And I'm probably going to lighten it up just a touch, which means just a touch of white. This is where in these classes, we always take the time to mix the colors that we like. I don't ever want you to feel pressured around just quickly mixing a color and not really being happy with it. I want you to be happy with it. Ooh, look at this. I added a touch of white. Mix that around. It's just a little softer, which I like. And it's a little too like green for me. It's kind of like Kermit the Frog green. So I'm going to add a touch of blue to it. So this is where you just find the right color for you. And if you like blue and green like me, you're probably going to be okay with wherever you end up. But we always take our time in these classes. If you're new, I welcome you. And this is getting, the blue just softens it just a little bit. That's so nice. All right, so ladies and gents, we are just painting the entire background. So you can jump in and you're just gonna do some nice smooth brush strokes. Paint from left to right. Nice coverage. Not doing anything fancy. We usually add like gradients and this and that. I'm not gonna do that tonight.
I pre-painted mine, so it had time to dry.
Oh, you are so smart. I am going to add a little bit of water on my brush. Sometimes that helps move the paint out. If people are already pre-painted, then you can just sit back and relax for a few minutes here. Acrylic dries pretty quickly, but if anybody pre-painted, super clever. You can always take a little bit of water on your brush and kind of move the paint around. And don't be timid in painting this background. I want you to, and even if you come out with gradients, if you use all the color that you have, that's okay. You can have a gradient. You can have a second tone down below. Just try to get all the way to the top to the left, top to the right. Do the whole top. Just so you have nice, smooth brush strokes. No gaps. Because if your colors change, that's okay. It doesn't matter. We try to be easygoing, kind of, we are fluid in these classes because art happens, right? And I'm just doing some just vigorous brush strokes, just trying to cover in all those nooks and crannies. And I'm keeping my brush on the canvas and I'm going left to right, left to right. It was thick. This paint is pretty thick, as you can see. So by putting in a little water along the way, it kind of helps move it around a little bit. Good coverage, but it's a little thick, so you kind of have to work it around a little bit. And I'm using water just to get those brush strokes right. There we go. And we're just doing the entire background, and it's drying pretty quickly for me. There we go. Perfect. Let's take our time. I encourage you, if anyone has just joined, I did drop a playlist. It's quite pretty. I can't play it because I'm teaching, but it's quite relaxing if anybody wants to play it. It's a really beautiful Christmas holiday playlist. It's mainly instrumental. Somebody sent it to me for meditation. I'm like, oh my gosh, I just listen to it as background music when I work. It's quite nice. And it'll help you relax and ease yourself into the class a little bit. And I'm running out of paint, which I'm sure many of you are too, but that's kind of fun, right? It's like, oh, am I going to be able to mix the same color? I don't know. Most importantly, I'm going to teach you in these classes to not worry about it. We're here to have fun. We're here not to worry about, oh, do I have the right green? Because the secret is there is no right green. We are here to roll with it, go with the punches. So I'm just going to make some more green, and maybe this one will be a little more blue. I don't know. I'm going to mix the same, a little bit of white, a little blue. A little bit of this, a little bit of that. And as we're mixing colors, if anyone has any favorite holiday recipes and you just feel like the world should know, take a minute in the chat and tell us what one of your favorite holiday recipes are, because you'll typically inspire one of us to go figure out and go how to make that. Very similar to painting. I always love hearing what some of your favorite holiday recipes are, whether it's a bread or cookies or, I don't know, a certain way you cook ham. I don't know, it can be anything. I'm a good old-fashioned sugar cookie girl personally, but all right, let's see here. I am mixing this. Let's see if it's going to be the same color. Looks a little lighter. You can roll with that. A little lighter. All right, let's see what this does. Oh, it's pretty similar. I think I did pretty close here. And my top is almost already dry, which is awesome. So we're just painting the entire background. My paint is a little thick. Sometimes, and many of you know this, as we fill in the background, sometimes we use water to really stretch it. I'm not really using a ton of water tonight because I really wanted this pigment green. I really wanted this bold color. And we're not really blending a ton of colors. If anybody wanted to sprinkle glitter on your background while it's wet, feel free to do that. I may do that after, but if your paint is wet, feel free to sprinkle some on at any point. Glitter is an optional medium or accessory here for tonight. Mine's drying pretty quickly. My canvas is also set up vertically, so my glitter would just fall right off if I tried it right now. Ooh, but I could do like an ombre on the bottom. That could be really fun. Maybe I'll do that. A little bit of glitter on the bottom while it's wet. That's thinking outside the box. All right. And these classes are always up to you, always up to your own interpretation. So if you're inspired to add glitter like Claudia was tonight, feel free to do that. If you just want to follow with me and paint the entire background, that's good too. This paint is thick, but it is happy. All right. And I'm doing nice, even brush strokes. It's taking me a little bit tonight, but it's all right. I'm not hesitating with this paint at all. I am just being really thorough, doing some nice, smooth brush strokes. Green canvas. And I had just enough paint. Imagine that, ladies and gents. All right. Now I'm going to get a little crazy here. I have glitter. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to kind of spread out this wet paint as much as possible and kind of make sure it's wet kind of on the bottom half. And I'm going to be a little courageous here. I have no idea what's going to happen. So I'm living adventurously. I have gold glitter. This is going to get everywhere, but that's okay. I'm in my studio. My husband can't say anything about it, right? Okay. All right. Wish me luck. Oh boy. Oh God. Oh Lordy. Okay. And of course I had no plan. What am I going to do with all this glitter that's right here? I don't know. I'm doing it on the bottom. Let's see where else I can do it. Is there any glitter anywhere up here? Is it wet anywhere? So now I have to find somewhere to dump this glitter. You know what? I have a container over there. Let me go get it. Hold on. So paint those backgrounds green. You have glitter. Here's some glittering. All right. I'm so glad I'm here to be spontaneous with you all tonight. It's so much fun. Okay, here we go. Oh, I have lots of glitter, ladies and gents. Woo! A little spicy here for a Thursday. I'm gonna let that dry. I can't believe it's stuck on that good. Oh, wow. Hang on, I'm gonna do something here. So you do not need to do glitter if you don't want to. Ooh, this really, Claudia, I don't know what yours looks like, but whoo, I got a lot of glitter going on. Did anybody else do glitter? Did anybody randomly have glitter in their home? I'll bring this a little closer. I'm embracing arts and crafts tonight, y'all.
I put glitter on mine.
You did? Okay, hang on. I'm gonna remove the spotlight.
I use silver.
It's silver? Oh, there's Claudia's. That looks amazing.
I don't know if you can see it or not.
Oh, a little bit. That looks so fun. Did Terry find some too? I love this.
Like, why not?
Glitter all of my hands. It's fine.
I'm gonna glitter my bows.
Oh, that's a good idea. Putting glitter in your bows. Yeah, see? Creativity. All these ideas just happen, ladies. So fun. Okay.
Megan?
Yes.
Megan. Will the paint go over smooth over the glitter?
You know, so this is what I'm gonna do. If the glitter didn't stick, it's not gonna go over smooth. So what I'm gonna do is I'm going to take a dry brush. I have my kind of placemat thing right here. If you take a dry brush and you kind of scratch the surface, it will kind of get rid of all of the non-loose glitter. There you go. And just kind of scratch the surface. And then it shouldn't interfere. Woohoo! Glitter party over here. And I don't think my candy canes are going to be disrupted. This is all looking pretty good. And it's sticking pretty well. This glitter is like fairly big in size. And I'm running a dry brush over it and it's fairly flat. And it's not sticking to my brush at all. So I don't think it's going to interfere.
Okay.
Yeah. And we're going to use white paint. So not a big deal. It will come right on, it'll go right on top of it. But we just want to try to get rid of any loose glitter. I kind of have like a glitter cloud at the bottom of mine and a little bit of glitter up here, but it's not even, but it's okay. It doesn't need to be. It's just an embellishment. All right, cool. Well, cheers to spontaneity. I appreciate that. Okay, cool. So the next step is we are going to do candy canes. Once, like my background is like, it's dry. And when you're done with this green brush, stick it in your water cup so the paint doesn't stick to it. If anybody's noticed, if you don't clean these brushes, this paint is really thick. You gotta make sure whenever you're not using the brush with paint on it, always keep it in your water cup because then it will come out a lot easier. So now we all have a little limeade to go with our class. Don't drink it, it's for display only. All right, so my brush is clean, it's good. I'm gonna put down my paper towel. Okay, so we want our background to be dry. We want to kind of do your glitter dusting, and we're gonna go for our white paint next. So we're not gonna put stars and stuff on yet. We're gonna do our candy canes first, and then we're going to let those dry, and then we'll do some of our stars. We're gonna kind of flip back and forth so our candy canes can dry in layers. Okay, so this is where you want a pencil. I'm gonna use a Sharpie courageously so you can see what I'm doing. If you would like to draw out the words joy, you can do that too. And we'll go from there. But if anybody has any questions, feel free to chime in along the way. So the candy canes are this. There's 3 candy canes. And I'm gonna bring this a little closer so you can see this with me. My background is dry, my glitter is on. I have done a light kind of dusting to get my glitter off. And there's 3 candy canes. And there's the word joy along the top. Now for me, I want to get the word joy in. Like for me, that's important because the candy canes can just go below. So I'm going to take a minute to write the word joy in pencil. I would encourage you to use pencil. I'm using a marker because I like to live life on the edge here. And joy is going to be centered in the middle. And I'm going to try to do this without messing up. All right, so let's see. There, I was courageous. I just went for it. I centered joy. And then my candy canes can kind of be tucked in all around. I went big with joy. You don't have to go that big, but that's that. I'm gonna get a different Sharpie really quick. All right, so there's joy, and it's not perfectly centered. It's okay. And now I'm gonna do some candy canes. So again, you're using pencil, I hope. The candy canes in the inspiration, the hook in the middle. So there's 3 candy canes, 1 in the middle, 1 on the left, and 1 on the right. The candy cane in the middle, the hook is facing to the left. The candy cane on the left, the hook is facing to the left. The candy cane on the right, the hook is facing to the right. So I'm just going to do an outline of these candy canes. I'm going to do kind of the hook part first. It has a rounded end, and you want the candy cane to be the same width. Now take your time. My hook isn't big enough, so this is where you can kind of reflect. The top of the candy cane is round. The hook for me needs to be a little longer. There we go.
Megan,
yes.
I'm having trouble. Like I'm trying to use my pencil to write joy. I can't even see anything in the green, and I don't want to use a Sharpie. Have any other suggestions?
I do not.
Is anybody else not being able to see anything in the green? It's like,
it may be like a lighting thing. If you maybe put a little bit more light on your canvas, you may be able to see it a little bit better.
okay.
Sometimes that pencil has like that reflective like lead quality that might be helpful. I would use a pencil though, unless you want to be, I mean, obviously a Sharpie, you can see I'm making mistakes. It's okay. I embrace my flaws. I'm going to paint over them, but I'm just kind of refining my lines. The top of the candy cane, ladies and gentlemen, has a nice rounded top to it. But you want the width of the candy cane to be fairly consistent. So you saw like I made some modifications over here. You can also see kind of where the ends land. Maybe this end needs to be a little bit longer. These are just outlines. We're gonna come in with white paint, so no big deal. So I'm just gonna kind of lean back. And my hook needs to be a little longer over here. Maybe the candy cane needs to be a little longer. Look at the length of your candy cane, and you want these to be fairly straight. Mine are not. I'm gonna make it a little bit more refined after. And you want to really try to center things. Mine's kind of shifted to the right, so I'm going to improvise. I might do like a Christmas star or something over here to kind of balance it out. It doesn't matter, but you all have pencils, so you can kind of get around it.
No.
All right, I think someone just
I got a head cold.
All right, perfect. So for me, a lot of my stuff is like to the right side. That's okay. I'm probably going to put like a Christmas star up here. So I'm just going to do, maybe I'll do like a wishing star, like so for me, I did Sharpie, so I'm just improvising with my space. But I'm just going to do kind of a Christmas star up here to fill the space, which is fine. So now it's a little bit more well balanced, and I'll put bows on after. So I'm using a Sharpie. I don't recommend it, but if you wanted to, you could. But we're basically going to get the candy cane shapes in, kind of lean back, get the shapes right before you move on. So one of the biggest things with candy canes is they need to be straight as possible. And if you need to go back in with the green to refine, you can. So I think I did as best as I could for right now with the straightness of my candy canes and the hook. Having a nice rounded top on the candy cane is important. So I have lots of lines. I'm going to cover this all up with white. You can use any brush that you'd like, but I'm going to use this number 6. It's kind of a 6 flat-headed brush. You may not have this brush. Don't worry about it. I'm going to grab white paint, and I'm going to fill in these candy canes as a first step. So we're going to do a lot of depth techniques to these candy canes, but first get your brush a little bit wet and get a base coat of white on. And I'm praying over here it covers up the black, which I'm thinking it will. Oh, look at that. Perfect. You might need a nice stable hand.
Megan.
Go ahead. There was an echo. You might need 2 coats of white. Just do a nice coat. A deep breath. Hopefully you're listening to that music. I will redrop the playlist. And don't worry if your candy canes aren't filled in entirely on the first pass. The more narrow the candy canes, the better. Some of you might have, mine are fairly medium in size. I'm painting right on top of my glitter, which is working out perfectly. So I'm just gonna let that dry. It's not perfect yet, ladies and gents. I'm not striving for perfection in this step. I'm just getting in a base coat. I can still see a little black, not worried about it. I'm just gonna move to the next candy cane and just paint these in. If one candy cane is a little bit different from the other, it doesn't really matter. They're really just related. They're not, they don't have to be exact twins. triplets in this case. All right. And I'm just taking a deep breath, enjoying the process. With that, my Sharpie got covered up for the most part, almost. Just to kind of go over it a little bit more. You want the width of the candy cane to be consistent. I think that's what candy makers would say too. 'Tis the season of candy canes. All right. Doing a thin white coat first is fine. Doing a nice clean end. You can use any brush you want for this step. So I'm using this number 6. If you don't want to use this brush, if you don't have this brush, that's okay. Follow the shape of the candy cane, take your time. This is an important step. Just take your time, no rush. That one has a little bit of a hook to it. All right. So base coat. So art is a process. It's something we have to have a little patience with, especially when we're painting white on green. Right. Filling in these candy canes. And we're going to do a lot of different layers on these. So being happy with the shape is something that we're focused on. And if you do something you don't like, guess what? Green is your background color. So you can always use your green to reshape these candy canes. And I'm not at a point where I'm going to do that yet because I'm just getting a base coat on. But let me tell you, if I want to reshape any of these candy canes, I know how to do it. Now my candy canes, again, a lot of my canvas is like heavy over here to the right, just because I'm not painting it in front of you like you are. So my perspective is off a little bit, but I'm sure all of your candy canes are perfectly centered on your picture. For me, I'm just trying to cover up these pesky black lines. If I don't want to do those with white, I can always do that with a little bit of green. These candy canes are drying. So if at any point you want to do a second coat on them, feel free. The candy canes have a little bit of a yellow tint to them. I don't know if anybody noticed that. They kind of have, it's not a white tint, it's a yellow tint. So
It must be last year's candy canes.
They're last year's, you know what, but I'm sure they taste great. I'm sure they're a little stale, but so funny. Yes, they're from last year. Or they were on sale and somebody picked them up at the end of the season, right? So funny. All right. For me, I'm just covering up this black, and this is just really getting a second coat on. If anybody wants like a little bit of that yellow, we can do that in a minute. If you wanted to mix like a tiny touch of yellow, you could. Totally optional. I may not even have sent you yellow. Remember, I may not have. You may not need it. All right. I always send custom colors every class. Let's see. I'm just doing a second outline. And the reason we're doing this now is because we need this to dry before we do our candy cane stripes. And your candy canes may be changing in shape a little bit. Mine probably are. If they need to dry before you do a second coat, then let them dry. Just go at your own pace. There's no rush. My white is kind of peeling up in areas. So I'm going to let certain areas dry. If anybody is in a good spot and you want to trace the word joy, you could do that at any point. That's not going to interfere with anything. But if there's any questions along the way, you're welcome to message me privately. Or you can unmute yourself. This is a very welcoming group here. So all questions are good questions. And again, I'm not sure if I said this in the beginning, but I want to thank AARP Vermont for having us tonight. They're again, a big partner of ours for us to be able to have these classes. So a big thanks to the AARP Vermont community for having us back once again. And we will continue our classes in the new year, which is wonderful. We're so grateful to have their partnership to be able to continue our artist community that we've created. All right, my candy canes are painted. I'm now leaning back and taking a step back, and you're gonna notice some flaws. You're gonna notice some areas that are uneven. That is why we step back. So for me, I have a little bit of a wiggle here in this candy cane. It's not too even in this spot. So I can come in and just do a little refinement. It's a little better. See how the candy canes need to be nice and straight? The details here. All right, so everybody's working on your candy canes. I'm gonna let mine dry. Very important. I'm gonna outline the word joy using a small brush. This is a number 1. It kind of has quite of a point on it. I think this is going to work quite well for joy for me. So if anybody wants to outline joy, you may. This again is a good one. I'm using a small brush. You can spin the tip of the brush so it has a nice fine point. It's helpful. I like to use my pinky to stabilize my hand. I love this. We don't always add words, and it's kind of a trendy thing, or it has been for a long time. I think it's kind of fun to add the word joy in tonight's class. It's making me happy. Even though my word is not even from left to right, I still don't care. All right. And I may want to do a second coat on this. It's just getting it on. And you can see I added that Christmas star over there to balance my, some of you might not have gotten your equal left and right either. And this Christmas star is going to help bring the eye back to the left side of the page. So I'm just going to outline my Christmas star. I'm just going to use a small brush. I don't know what I'm going to do with that yet, but we're moving in the right direction here. And sometimes when you paint or you do art, you kind of just start, and if you're open-minded, and that's what I always encourage in these classes, is that you will go somewhere. You may not know every bit of detail or this way or that way, but just being open-minded to the process, even if you make a mistake like I just did, you just grab a little paper towel and you just kind of wipe it off. You just keep moving on. There we go. And I fixed it. So if you ever paint anything, just grab a little piece of paper towel with a little wetness on it. You can kind of reshape something if you just mess something up. So don't worry about that too much. So my joy needs a second coat. My candy canes are drying. We're going to add tiny little stars all over too. So everyone's at different places. So I'm just going to let you keep working on what you're doing, because there's a few different components, right? But we're really just focused on the white right now. Maybe if your candy canes need a little bit more love, you can do a little bit more white on your candy canes. Maybe dialing in the exact right shape of your candy canes. If anyone needs help, please let me know. And if anyone joined late, if you're interested in joining a watercolor class in the future, I'm offering a $5 discount. This is a little special like holiday. Thank you for being a part of our community here. I can still see some green coming through these, but it's okay. I'm just gonna kind of let it be. I also have a little bit of black. It's okay just to let the artwork have its time here to process and dry. We don't want to rush it because we don't want paint to come up. That would just be awful. My word joy has dried, so I'm going to go back and do a second coat on that. And this technique of, I call it bopping around. It's a very official art technique, art quote. It's basically doing some work in one area of your canvas and moving around to another to let another dry. So I want my candy canes to dry. My joy has half dried, so or is half done. So I'm just going in to do a second coat. So it's nice and clean and crisp white. Kind of making the most of time here. And we will do kind of starry snowflakes all over the background too. And I love that Melody is going to add glitter to her bows. I think that's such a cool idea. Such a cool idea. All right. And as we're all painting, I can tell you a little bit about the artwork that we're going to be doing next year. So some of you have emailed me. I'm behind on replying to some emails. So if anybody has emailed me and you have not heard back from me, I apologize. The past week or two has been really crazy. But artwork for next year, I've gotten a lot of feedback on doing more realism. So like less things like this, but more things that you may want to like truly like hang in your home or give away as a gift. Like a lot of more birches and animals and naturescapes. So I'm going to design a series for next year that is focused around nature. So if anyone is inspired to do certain things, please let me know. We are going to be doing cardinals in January, so that will be really fun. And we'll continue a different nature series. If anyone has ideas, many of you emailed me with ideas. I appreciate that, and I always welcome your feedback. So thank you for being vocal. But if you have continued to have ideas, feel free to let me know. So look at that, 2 coats of white paint on my joy and on these candy canes. They're still not perfect. In person, they're not perfect. Through Zoom, it might look perfect. It's not. There's a lot of space, a lot of texture, but we're going to be doing we're going to do red and stuff in a minute for the candy canes. So I'm just letting those dry, and we're going to switch to do the stars in just a minute. All right. If anyone has any questions, please let me know. All right. So I just added a little bit of extra weight to my Christmas star. I'm inspired to add just a couple of dots. I always love like Scandinavian designs where they have dots and like all these different design aspects. So art is sometimes about just having an idea and kind of going with it. That's what I'm inspired to do tonight. We'll go with it there. All right, I'm just going to check, make sure everyone's muted. All right, I'm just plugging my computer in too. That'd be bad. My computer died during class. All right. So we should show our paintings off to one another. I don't know. I'm incredibly excited to see how everyone's doing. I'm going to remove the spotlight on me because that's enough of me for right now. And if folks want to take a minute to hold up your paintings, we can all see how we're doing. Ooh, so fun. Claudia, look at that glitter, girl. I saw your glitter before those candy canes. That was so fun. Everybody did Joy. You did such a good job with Joy. Oh, Gail, you have beautiful penmanship. Look at those swirls. Oh my goodness. There's Leslie's. Donna, that looks great. Donna put a little swirl in her Joy. I like that. Miss Jill's looks good. Jill's candy canes are perfectly centered on her canvas. She did a better planning than I did. Nice. Everybody's candy canes look really good. Penny, your candy canes are perfect, angled perfectly. Nice job. All right. So well done, everyone. There's Judith's. All right, Judith. Amazing. Okay, so everybody's doing spot on. So if those candy canes are not filled in all the way, don't worry about it. There is a little bit of like splatter star situation that's happening in the background. I'll show you what that is. I wouldn't go too crazy with like lots of white dots everywhere because we don't want it to take away from the candy canes. So I'm hesitant to do the snow and like the stars right now because I would rather us to focus on the candy canes first. So I think I'm going to pump the brakes on doing like little stars and snowflakes because once the candy canes are on, I think you will be able to figure out how much more white to add, because I think doing the red for the candy canes next is probably a good thing. But our candy canes should be fairly dry. So take a minute. I'm going to touch some of these candy canes. This paint does shine even when it's dry. I think I need another minute or two for these to dry, but we can get our red ready for our candy canes. Does anyone, yeah, we'll just do the red, that's fine. And I believe I sent Brilliant Red. Give me a thumbs up if I sent Brilliant Red. Or did I send Crimson?
I got Rouge. Brilliant Red.
Thank
Rouge,
you.
brilliant. Okay.
I sent you the brightest red I had. Oh, some of you might have both. Oh, some of you might have burnt sienna. It's like a brownish color. So I sent you two. Okay. So the brown is like meant as like a, we can use it for shading, which would be kind of fun. It's like a brownish red color. It's called, where is it? It's called, yeah, burnt sienna. But we're going to use the lighter color first. Okay. And we're going to do the stripes on the candy cane. And this is going to be fun. Let me tell you. So we're going to use the smallest brush I sent you. You might have a 2/0 fraction brush. There are small gold numbers on the sides. You also might have a number 1 or a number 2 with a really fine point. Now, all these brushes are brand new. So you have a nice fine point on these, which is lovely. And I'm going to take my plate here. Here we go. I'm going to put a thumbnail's worth of red on my plate. And I want us, as we talk about our candy canes and we talk about how we're going to fill them in, I want us to be thoughtful about some of the facts that we're going to do. So these candy cane stripes are all the same width and they are on an angle. Okay. So two things, they are on an angle. So, and you want to leave the width is going to be the same for each stripe. And you want to make sure you have enough of a white space in between each candy cane stripe too. So you want to see a white stripe. It's going to be the same width, red, white, and they're going to be angled. So you can start at the bottom of the candy cane. I'm going to mix this red really well first. If this red is too bright for you, you could add, I might do this, mix that red together first. This paint is really thick, which is a good thing, but sometimes you have to mix it in first, kind of like brownie batter. You got to get it all mixed in. I'm going to add a touch of the burnt sienna to this red. So this is a little too bright for me. I just wanted to just dim it down, just tame it just a little bit. So, I mean, just a little bit, ladies and gents. So I mean like a grain of rice amount of burnt sienna. And let me just see what this does. it's gonna darken it a little bit. Yeah, a little bit goes a long way. It's turning it like, not orange, but it's kind of like warming it up a little bit. So I'm gonna leave it at that. It just kind of tamed it down just a little bit. And it's a nice color actually for candy cane. So I'm glad I did that. Now, you don't want a lot of paint on your paintbrush. You want to be in control, like you are the artist and you're looking at your painting and saying, I'm in control of you painting and I'm in control of my paintbrush, right? So just a little bit of paint. Pick one candy cane to start and do an angle. Try to find the right width for you. And these are straight stripes. So do one stripe, fill it in and say, do I want these candy cane stripes to be thicker or more narrow? And you want to go right to the edge. And if you need to use green to kind of like touch it up after, you can. So for me, I don't know how big I want these to be. So I'm gonna lean back in my chair. And if your paint goes off the edge, don't worry of your candy cane. We can touch that up. So I'm doing more thicker candy cane stripes. I think this is a good width. And you want to maintain the same angle. So I'm going to move up a little bit and I'm going to do the same angle. And I'm going to try to do the same width. And you just fill in as you go. So you're setting some precedent here. You're setting the width of the candy cane. You're setting the angle of the candy cane stripe, and you're setting the white space too. So the white space is important because I'm going to try to hold the same white space. So there's these three things, and you're all like, oh my gosh, Megan, who thought candy canes would be so hard? It's okay. I'm here to challenge us. And then you can do filling these in. They don't have to be perfect. Just do your best. Don't be critical. We're here to have fun. All right. Work your way up the candy cane. You can see I'm trying to hold the same white space in between, trying to hold the same width of the candy cane as well. It's a little bit like painting branches on a tree, but a little different. A little similar, but a little different. If you have that music on, oh, I hope you love it. If anybody needs me to drop the playlist into the chat that I shared earlier, please let me know. Take a deep breath. Enjoy this. We are going to bring so much depth and dimension to these candy canes. It's going to be a blast. These stripes are going to go from the left side to the right side, like it's wrapping around. Now, as you get to the top part, you improvise. You just kind of turn it. I'm just going to kind of bend this one around a little bit. I haven't painted candy canes in a number of years, so we're all doing this together. Imagine that. All right. You can kind of play with how these come on. I'm kind of doing on the top side of the candy cane, you can see it's a little wider. And then on the underside, it gets a little skinnier. You could try that if you wanted. See how it's wider on the top and a little skinnier on the underside? Okay. I have one candy cane, just 12 more to go here. And you can see the angle of the candy canes, of the angle of the red stripes too. The angle on the red stripes that I did on the right, they're kind of going like down to the left and higher up on the right. For these two over here, I'm gonna change, you can change the angle. So I'm going to do every other. So it looks a little different. And in the picture, it's actually this way. I didn't even notice it. So the angle of these candy canes, it's going to be higher on the left. And lower on the right. So if it's not too late, some of you might be painting your candy canes faster than me. It's kind of a tedious part. And I'm going to try to have all these candy canes match, which means I'm going to try to have the same height of the stripe. I'm going to try to have them all match one another. Same white space. Again, it's tricky, but we're talking about it because we're trying to paint mindfully, right? Takes a lot of practice to slow down, to kind of like have intent of what you're doing. Obviously, having instruction like this is helpful, but as you do it on your own, you kind of have to figure it out on your own. It's not always easy. I have a little bit of a white glob there for my candy cane. How wonderful. I'll let that dry. But I'm trying to maintain the same white space. But this is such a joyful inspiration. I hope everyone's loving this. It's really different from anything we've painted in the past. I'm really liking it. All right. Slowly taking my time. I'm coming around the corner here. The neck of the candy cane is tricky. I'm sure many of you are really running into that as well. But doing it a little wider on top, a little skinnier down on the underside to show a little bit of a bend. Little skinny on the underside, a little wider on the top of the turn. We're going to add more white. We're going to add some really beautiful highlighting to these candy canes, like they are just fresh out of the candy shop. So we don't have, 2-year-old candy canes here. These are going to be delicious and fresh. Have that glisten to them. We'll do that after. And this one's going to end with a little bit of red on the end. So you can see how you change, when you change the directions of these stripes, the candy cane stripes, they're not perfect. They're not exactly the same, but they're close, right? Having the candy cane stripes be higher on the left and lower on the right, you can see how it's kind of changing up the scene a little bit, which is kind of nice. Now in the inspiration, the direction of these is angled this way too. So it doesn't matter, but I think it's good to consider, or at least create awareness of the angle of the candy cane stripe. So you can decide what you want to do. And I'm kind of doing a line down. I got to hold space in between these stripes. That's something I'm trying to be more mindful of. They have a lot of, they have more designs in the white space of these candy canes. I'm not sure if anybody noticed that or not. I really like that, but to do that, we have to hold white space. All right. And I'm getting a little lazy with my angles here, so to do a better job of holding the angle for the candy cane. And I'm kind of coming into my green in some areas. It's okay. It's kind of blending in a little bit, which is good. This is all for fun. So just do your best. If anyone needs help, please let me know. But we're all just painting our candy canes. And the red candy cane stripes go to the left to the right side. It really allows it to like wrap around visually. So this is where I kind of like take a step back and I reflect on what we're doing here. If you need to make any modifications to the size of your candy canes, like if you need to make one like a little longer, this is the time to do that. So for me, I'm done the red stripes, taking a deep breath. And I am embracing the length of my candy canes. My candy cane on the left is shorter, but it aligns with the bottom. So I am hesitant to make it a little longer. So I'm just gonna embrace it is what it is. If you're adding bows and you wanted to add big bows, you may want to make your candy canes longer. So talking about bows, I'm going to add a bow, but my candy canes are kind of, some of them are kind of stubby. This one's longer than this one. So I might, because I want to add a bow, I may make that candy cane a little longer, which is okay, right? We're making modifications and we're moving. So I'm just going to grab another brush that's clean. And I'm going to add some white paint, and I'm just going to make this candy cane a little longer because I want to put a bow on it. And I want the candy cane to be long enough for the bow to actually work. So I am just going to extend this candy cane down. So it's okay to change the shape of something. And this is why we're here, right? It's about being intentional. See, that looks already so much better. This one's going to come down a little bit too. It's okay. And then we can always add the red after. So I made those a little longer. I might even make this one a little longer too. I'm just extending the white down. So you can take a look to see, do you need to modify the length of your candy canes? This is such an easy thing to do. Do a coat of white. You might need another coat after, but let it dry first. There's a lot of white on this one. Whoops. If you want to add another coat of white in between these candy cane stripes, feel free. Ooh. Staying in the lines, of course. Yeah, I'm adding another strip of white in between these candy cane stripes. Now these candy canes are really starting to jump off. This is a great example of patience, of just knowing the evolution of art, knowing that 3 coats of white paint on top of a green background looks a lot better than just maybe 2, right? Knowing it's a part of the process. So it's just knowing what's coming and being patient with the process. But you're unwinding. You all deserve this break, and I'm so glad you're here with me tonight. All right. I'm kind of bopping around and just doing a second coat of white in between these candy canes where I need it. Again, trying to stay in between the lines is the key. I'm also letting the bottom of these candy canes dry so I can come in with red as well. All right. I love it. You might want to take a minute if you want to do another coat on top of Joy. You could do that. Again, using a small brush. We're really just working on a lot of minute details right now. So just take your time in whatever step you're on. Some of you still might be working on those candy cane stripes. No big deal. I'm just going to do, without sticking my finger in paint, be good. My Joy needs a 3rd coat. All right. I'm so grateful that we're all here together and that you are enjoying the classes. If you're new, I welcome you back to future classes. If anyone doesn't get into future classes and you have your own supplies, feel free to shoot me a note. I am happy to let you in to the class. We appreciate your interest, and I want to, if you have supplies and you want to still join, please let me know. I don't manage the registration, even though I know these classes fill up quickly. However, I do manage the Zoom. So as long as it doesn't get too unwieldy of letting in 20, 30 people more, I'm happy for you to come and be included if you don't get in. The more you do these classes, you may already have extra supplies, but you'll kind of have extra supplies after every class, which means you may just need to pick up a new canvas or buy a pad of acrylic paper to paint on. So if you want to keep painting on your own and you have questions about supplies, you're welcome to reach out to me at any time. My contact information is on a piece of paper that I included within your kit. So my name is Megan. Again, reach out with any questions. I'm happy to provide you with any supplies that you may need to expand your supply list at home. Okay, so I'm being patient. I did a second coat where I needed it to. I have an array of gold glitter all over my computer, which will be fun to get off in an hour or so here. But I'll look around the room and we'll check in with some folks. I'm going to, everyone's in the zone. I love this. Let's check in with Miss Leslie. Leslie, how's it going over there? Yes. Candy cane perfection. Those are beautiful. I love how you rounded the end of your candy canes. Those look so pretty. Oh, there's Claudia. So Claudia added some of the white dots. Oh, that's your sparkle, girl. All right. Amazing. There's Melodies. I love this. So some of you jumped ahead, and I think that's a good idea for adding in some of these stars and things, which is totally fine. I always encourage you to go at your own pace. So if anybody wants to join me and add a few like white stars or dots, I always suggest grabbing your smallest brush. And there's a lot of different types of stars that you could add. So you could do like a single line down and make a plus sign, and then you can kind of do an X through it. That's kind of a simple star. I'll bring this a little closer. How tiny is that? Oh my gosh. So I did kind of a plus symbol, and then I did an X through it. And then, so for me, I did one of those, which means I should do a few more, but in different places. And one of the things I teach in these classes is a bit of like a visual design, like a balance for the eye. So I'm going to add one to the middle. And I'm going to add one over here to the top corner. I like any item to be like visually balanced, whether it's a tiny star or a candy cane or words. Some of those things I did better tonight than others, but it's okay. I know I'm not perfect. But I always like to do an odd number as well. So I did one there, one there. I'm going to do another one down here. See how I'm placing them in all spots. So it's visually balanced to the eye. And then I'll do another one over here. And then maybe I'll do a different type of star next time. Like a tiny little dot. And if anybody wants, I'll show you a really easy way of doing a star and a dot. You can use the round end of your brush. Instead of using the bristles, you can use the round end, and you can do a tiny little dot. And there's a trick. So you kind of swirl the end of the paint with this, and then you have this little tiny little dollop at the end. Now, if you do like a hard like jam on, see a little dot on my hand? If you do like a hard press down, you're gonna have a bigger dot. However, if you do a light touch, you could have a tiny little dot. So if you do a tiny little touch, you could do tiny little stars all over. And if they're not stars, maybe it's just decorative, right? So I like doing the tiny touch of a dot. So you can do both. You could push down a little harder to have a bigger dot. These look like little snowflakes to me personally. And this is really adorable. I love this part because you can figure out how much or how little you want to add. So fun. And I'm going to do them all over. So the top to the left. You can do some bigger, you can do some smaller. And be mindful as you're adding these dots, snowflakes or stars, whatever you want to call them. It could be both. And how many you want to add. And I got to give Claudia a high five for this glitter. What a fabulous idea, Claudia. Thank you for bringing that inspiration to tonight's class. I was thinking doing like a glow in the dark paint night one time would be really fun. And sending in everyone like a black light bulb or something. Oh my God, it'd be so funny to do like a glow in the dark painting. All right. So I'm just adding a few dots here and there. This is snow for me. I'm dreaming of skiing someday. Hopefully it's not March. All right. So I'm just gonna stop with my dotting and just kind of step back. My North Star here needs a little love. So maybe I'll take a few minutes to work on this. I have a lot of black Sharpie shining through mine, which is fine. I'm just gonna come in with the green and cover it up. It's okay. And I don't know how I want to embellish this North Star yet. I might add a little yellow to it, but I just need it to be nice, and even a little glitter on that North Star could really just do it. It could be really fun to add glitter on that. So maybe, again, I'm thinking outside the box here, but if anyone has any gold paint, you could put gold paint on this star. I have gold paint I just bought. We're doing glitter right now though. I might do some glitter on this. Because why not, right? All right, I'm gonna get a little crazy here. Let me make sure my star is totally wet in paint. So I want the glitter to stick to it. All right, wish me luck. I'm going into the glitter zone again. So I want you to work on whatever details are right for you. Oh boy, there's a whole lot of glitter. I just dumped it right on it. I'm gonna spread it out. Gonna let it dry. Oh boy. See the amount of glitter? Whew. Again, no idea where I got this glitter from. No idea. All right. So now I'm going to dump it. And I'm going to do a little, my canvas. Ooh, look at that. So glittery. I'm going to do a dry brush. I'm going to let it dry for a minute first. Ooh. I'm going to let this dry before I brush it off too much. But I have a gold star, which is kind of fun. I think Melody was going to add glitter to her bow, which is kind of fun. So you do you. There's my glittery star. Woohoo, so glittery. Came out pretty good. Not perfect, but I'm happy with it. And I'm letting my candy canes dry. So I have the red stripes. I did joy. My joy could definitely use another coat, but I'm just gonna stay with that for right now. One additional thing as things are drying is, I know some of you are still working on your candy canes. There's an additional step we can do to joy using black paint, which is kind of creating some depth, which is quite good. So if anybody wants to add a little bit of a 3D effect to joy with me, you can put a small black dot of paint on your canvas, on your palette plate, and grab your smallest brush and join me. Even like a number 1 or a number 2 would be fine. I grabbed a number 2. This is fine. And we're going to do a little bit of 3D effect here for joy. So for joy, we're going to start with the letter J. And next, so in the picture, it's kind of a shaded, kind of shadowed reflection. You can do the black paint directly next to the white, which is what I'm going to do. So on the left side of J, you're doing a black line. And I'll bring this a little closer if I can. There we go. So on the left side of the J, on the inside of the J, looping around about halfway. Halfway on the inside of the J. And then on the outside of the J, kind of like where the other one stopped. And then I do a little bit on the dot. And you can play with this. You can do as much or as little of this as you wish. Just go nice and smooth. You can use a fine little tip to really make it close off. And then on the left side of the O, making sure you have a nice rounded tip. I'm just rolling my brush. And on the inside of the O, and you want to do nice smooth brush strokes. Some of my brush strokes are a little jagged, so you can see that. And then up here on the top from the Y, O to the Y. And you can look if you're not following me, it's okay. On the left side of the Y. Underneath. On the inside of the Y. It's gonna, you can make this as thick or as thin as you want. I'm gonna make it a little bit more thick in certain areas. And you can always add white paint. If you make a mistake, you can always add white paint or use green paint. It's not a big deal to cover it up. On the inside of the Y, going down into the curve, going about halfway. And then on the outside of the Y, okay. And then it's on the outside of this curly Q. And then on the inside of this curly Q. And this just makes joy stand out just a touch. And I'm just making sure I haven't missed anywhere. You can do, if you want to do on the top of the Y right there, you could. If you wanted to bring it across the top of the O, you could do that too. And I'm just going to make it a little thicker over in the J. I might bring some white in to like touch some of it up, but that's just a little bit of a 3D effect to our word. And I could even bring in some of this 3D effect to the star too. So the star was an addition, right? So if I wanted to add the same effect to the star for it to jump out on the left of each of these elbows, I wanted to add a little bit of black. you could see what adding that looks like. So totally optional. You could get as crazy as you want, but that's just something fun to consider. We're doing great for time. We are going to add a little bit of highlighting on our candy canes with some white next, and then we're going to do our bows. So we're doing great on time. If anybody wants to add a little bit of an embellishment on the candy cane to really make it glow, grab a small brush of your choice. I'm grabbing the 2/0 fraction brush, and I'm grabbing a little bit of paint and putting a little bit of white paint and putting a little bit of water on my brush. So it's kind of nice and thin. It's not goopy paint, because what we're going to do is down the middle of the candy cane, we're going to draw a line, a white line. So I'm just going to, I'll pick this one. You're going to do a line, a consistent line down your candy cane. See how it just made my whole candy cane shine? Water and white paint using my smallest brush. I did a line through the middle of the candy cane, a single thin line, a single line all the way through. Water helps because your paint, it will kind of keep, it makes it a little bit more fluid of a brush stroke. I'm going to rinse and repeat. So directly through the middle of the candy cane. You kind of just be brave and just go for it. You got this. I know you got this. See, it's creating a little bit of a faux shine. Imagine that. This is like the level 2 tip that will make your friends go, ooh, look at those candy canes. And then the final one. Nice. And if anybody wants to get fancy with those like tiny little red lines, I might try it. It's not going to take too long, but if anybody wants to try doing those tiny little red lines, I'm going to take a little bit of red paint and a little bit of water just to see if it helps make it a little smoother. And there's tiny little red lines in the white part of the candy cane. If anybody wants to try that, feel free. I'm doing white paint. I'm doing red paint with some water to make it really fluid. And I'm using the tip of my brush. I'm just gonna do one tiny little stripe just to see what it does. Ooh. It would look really good. You have to have a really steady hand for this. It's kind of tricky. Oh man. My angle is not good, but I'll try. If I had my canvas lying flat down, this would probably be going a lot easier. I'll have to redo some of these. I do like the way it looks, but I'll show you what it looks like at least on here, and you can decide if you want to do it or not. I like it. I think it adds a really natural look to these candy canes. And the water is really helpful. So you can actually see the difference. Some of these are kind of messy, but you can see the difference between the lines in the candy canes versus the non-lines. And I did 2 lines. I like the 2 lines.
Where are you putting those? Right through the middle of the white?
And through the middle of the white, directly in the white. Yeah.
Okay, thanks.
You're welcome. Yep. And some of these bottoms of these candy canes might need another red stripe. You can do that at any point. So I'm using water and red paint, and it's helping tremendously. The water is making it really smooth. It's not getting stuck. I don't need to go back and get more because there's enough water on the brush to hold the pigment. I do like that a lot. optional, but something for you to consider. I do need to shift this over so I can do the other side. And we're doing great on time. I'll show you how to do the bows in just a minute. Bows are optional, so if you love your candy canes and you don't want to mess them up, I get it. I will show you how to do the bows though. And these lines are not perfect. It's okay. Don't rush. If you want to take your time on these steps, do not rush. But I'm going to bring this a little closer. How much fun are these candy canes? They came to life quite a bit, didn't they? Love it. So fun. All right, I'm just going to add a couple extra red stripes down here to the bottom of these candy canes that I extended. Remember, I extended them? That worked out for us because I'm going to add those bows next. Now, the bows for these candy canes are like one's a sage green, so a lighter green. So check and see how much white you have. If you went crazy with your white, see if you have enough to do these bows. White and green will make you a sage green. And then the other color, the two candy canes on the left and the right are sage green. The one in the middle is like a bluish green. So if you want to get a little crazy with your blue and your green, you can make a nice darker green color, which is quite fun. So my candy canes, they are good enough. They look great. I have the little double lines. Happy with that. I am going to make a light sage green for my first bow color. And I'm just going to use a medium brush. So like a 5, a 4, whatever you got handy, that's handy. That is not dirty or that you want to use. Feel free to use that. I don't know what color this is, but I'm going to use it. And I'm going to grab that light green and I'm going to mix it with white so it's a lighter green color. I want it to stand out from the background. Very important. It's got to stand out, which means you want to use very little green. Little green is going to go a long way. So since your white might be limited, use a tiny, tiny touch of green. And to make it look a little bit more gray, you could a tiny, 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 tiny bit of black will give it a gray tone. So we'll just tone it, we'll dull it. We'll give it a little bit of a dull color. So I'm going to make this light green and I want to make it a little more sagey color. This is kind of a key lime color. By adding a tiny touch of black, I mean like little bit, will dull it down. And this should be fine. I want, before you actually paint the bows, make sure you like the color. But you can see it just started to make it a little bit more gray. You don't want to add too much. Wait, that didn't kill it. But just mixing these colors, again, a little bit of patience. I think that's right. See how I just toned it down just a bit? Okay. You can figure out the size of the bows. I'm going to kind of clean off some of this paint on the brush. I don't need a lot. I don't need it to be goopy. I just want to have enough on the brush for me to be deliberate about these details. Okay. In the picture, they did the middle bow first because it's on the foreground. I'm just going to do the bow on the left first, and then we can layer the other one on. So the bow for the candy cane is in the middle of the candy cane neck. So I'm going to just do a rounded circle shape, maybe a rounded square, whatever you want. And then you can just do a bow of your flavor here. I'm going to have the ends be a little more pointy, maybe a rounded point, but you can fill these both in entirely. You can decide how big or how small you might want them. We'll bring these to life with some black and white details.
How did you get the sage green color?
I mixed take white, add a tiny touch of green. And then I added a little tiny touch of black, like a grain size of rice black. Just to kind of dull it down to create a little bit of a gray tone to the green.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome. And then I'm going to do just a couple of really skinny tails of the bow. And I'm just going to let that dry. The bow is going to dry. I'm not going to touch it for a whole minute here. Bow is going to dry.
Megan.
Yes.
It's Corinne. I'm sorry to interrupt. Could you, I have a blank, I guess I wasn't signed up or was closed. Could you send me a link for Sunday's class if you don't mind, and I can just join along?
Could you write me a note in the chat window right now? I'm going to capture all those and then I'll do that for you.
Okay. Thank you.
Thank you, Corinne.
Okay.
All right. And then I'm going to do another bow with the same color. I'm going to let that bow dry. I'm going to do the same bow over here on this candy cane. And you can kind of control the direction of the angle of the bow. I'm just keeping it fairly simple. All right. And again, we start simple and then we can kind of bring things to life. Very similar to how we had white boring candy canes and then we added the red and then we brought them to life, right? So it's all about layers, all about just understanding the process. These bows can have a little bit of a sway and swagger to them. These tails, you could have a little double tail, you could have a single tail, doesn't matter. I'm going to use a smaller brush for some of these kind of refining details. Thank you, Corinne, for making a note. I appreciate that.
Oh, I didn't give you, do you have my email?
I sure do.
Thank you.
I got you. Yep.
Okay. See you then.
Yeah, have a great night. All right. So I have two bows in there. The colors that I mixed for the bow were the light green and white, but I really did like 90% white and a touch of the light green. And then I added a tiny touch of black to make them a little grayish, not so bright, kind of toned them down a little bit. All right. I'm just going to fix some of these bows while they're, so I'm just letting these dry. I'm just fixing the shape of some of these as I'm waiting for them to dry. It's okay to fix something. Just using, you can use green paint to just kind of re-outline something. This green paint actually is adding a little bit of a shaded tone, which is kind of cool. Did that unintentionally. Just kind of reshaping. And I'm going to let those bows dry. And we're going to use black once those bows are dry to add outlines to these bows. Now, if your name is Melody and you would like to glitter your bows, you are probably doing that now while your bows are wet. All right. I'm like reading things here. All right. So my bows are drying. If you want to make like a greenish bluish bow for the middle, this is where, if you like blue as much as I do, you can take that blue lake, which I got to get some more, and mix it, and you can kind of create that bluish green bow. So it's a little darker. The bow in the middle is a little darker. And I gotta say, I love the sparkle. Who doesn't love a little sparkle in their life? All right. And I'm not a sparkly girl either. So this is kind of fun. All right, so I put a little bit of blue lake. I'm going to take a little bit of the green. And I'm going to make this like bluish green. I'm going to do 50-50 and see what happens, making this middle bow here. Okay, I did a 50-50. All right. 50-50 here. And I'm going to use another small brush of choice. You want to use smaller brushes because they just give you more control. Sometimes the big brushes, things get a little crazy. They get a little out of hand. I want to keep you in control as the artist here. Mixing the blue and the green together. And I might make this a touch darker. Look at that color. It is so beautiful. This blue and green mixed together. It's truly turning to be this like beautiful evergreen. What is this color called? It's not called evergreen, emerald green, beautiful emerald. Oh boy. That's what we want, but I want it to be a little darker. So I'm going to grab a touch of black to darken it because I want this to stand out. And this is thick paint, so just take a minute to mix it really good. And this paint's a little shiny, which is kind of nice, right? It's not a matted finish. Got a little shine to it. Ooh, look at that beautiful dark emerald. Ooh, beautiful. Love it. And again, I don't want it to be too goopy, so I'm just spinning the brush just to kind of have a manageable size paint. And I'm going to do another bow in the middle. Now, if this bow happens to overlap the other ones, that's fine. It doesn't need to. It all depends on the size of things here. So mine, it might overlap with this one. You can make the edges of the bows a little more boxy. If they're too rounded, you can always make them a little more boxy with a little bit of I don't want to say a point, but a little bit more distinction. And this one is overlapping with the neighbor. That's okay. Not a big deal. And a couple of tails. These tails can overlap if you want them to. So cute. All right. So I'm going to let my bows dry. They can be as rounded or as boxy as you want. Take a look around, see if there's anything else that you want to change or modify. Our bows need to dry just a touch before we do the black detail. So take a look at the snowflakes that you have in the background. Take a look at the word joy. Take a look at your red or your white areas on your candy cane. I would love, in the chat window, I will really quick drop in the folder where you could upload your work. Let me grab that just in case anyone has to leave soon. Created a AARP Vermont artist community folder. If anyone doesn't know how to use the folder, send me a link, send me a picture of your picture and I'll put it in there. But there's a plus box, get link, copy. Okay, so you can see all the work. I'm going to drop the folder into the chat now. I encourage you to bookmark it. If you don't know how to bookmark it, just keep it open in your browser, but you can click on that link. Everyone has access to it. Everyone can add to it. Everyone can view what's in it. So if you want to show your work, we'd love to see that. All right.
What colors did you mix for the blue bow?
I did blue and green, 50-50, and I added a tiny touch of black.
Okay, thanks.
You're welcome. Ooh. Love it. And I love that folks are sharing in the chat that you're interested in the watercolor class, also ideas that you have for next year. So we could do an evergreen forest with like lots of greens. It could be really beautiful. It'd also be really fun to do like a mountain sunrise with some like yellow tones, which could be really like blues and yellows, which could be really beautiful. Open to any ideas that you have there. So thank you for being so open and sharing feedback along the way. All right. We are going to do a little bit of detailing on the bows. I'm going to start with the green bows in the background. We're going to use black paint and a tiny, tiny, tiny brush. You're just going to do some outlining. And then we'll bring these bows to life with some of that detail. So you want a tiny brush so you have the most control over what you're doing. So I'm going to find my black paint. I think I have a little dollop over here. And if it has other colors mixed in, just swirl it around. Nobody's going to know. And then I like to spin the brush on the side so it's nice and skinny. And the first thing you're going to do is, of course, I lost my inspiration. All right. The first thing you're going to do is you're going to find the center of the bow again. So you're going to outline the center of the bow, nice and round. And if this color is too dark for you, you can, you could use a dark gray. So let me show you what a dark gray looks like, just in case if anybody wants to use a dark gray. Let me see here. Let me just make a dark gray real quick. I want it on the darker side, but if you don't like the black, I'm just mixing a dark gray really quick. You're basically going to outline the entire bow with this color, whatever color you choose. Okay. You're going to outline the bow with a nice thin brush stroke. The dark gray is very similar to the black. I'm using a dark gray now. And you don't need a thick line. You could just do a small light drag. And you can do a couple of thin lines coming from the center of the bow, kind of going out into the bow area. And you're basically going to outline the bow nice and thin, the whole thing with this like dark, with this gray color or with black. And then we're going to add white to it and it's going to make it pop. So using a nice thin brush, just take a minute to do thin lines. We're going to add white to it, so don't worry if it looks funny. It's kind of like embracing the process, right? Like it's not done. And if we have more time, there's like a lot of shading in the bow. I can show you how to do some shading if there's time. But I'm just doing the basics first. You do a couple of these creases, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, like where the bow is cinched. All right. So you can see I just did an outline of those bows so they stand out. And I'm spinning the brush on the side again to try to have the finest point. The finest tip for these details is really important. On the underside of the bow in the middle, there's kind of like these rounded cinches. If anybody wants to add kind of like rounded cinches in the underside of the bow, kind of cute. They're kind of like two kind of rounded lines on the inside of the middle part of the bow. I'm going to outline the green bow in the middle as well, the darker bow, just so that's done. And then we're going to go back in and add white to the bows to really make them stand out. And then we'll be done today's class and we can We can show our work off in just a few minutes to one another, so hang tight. But I hope you all enjoyed this. I thought it was a really fun one. And don't rush. I want you to take your time. So if you're not quite here yet, don't worry. The class is being recorded. Please let me know in the chat if you'd like a recording of the class. Also, if you'd like more information on watercolors, let me know. I'll include you I'll send a special email to you all about that. All right, I'm gonna hold this a little closer. I have basic bows and I've outlined them with black paint. Now you can see they kind of stand out. They're a little bit different, right, than the candy canes in the background. It's okay. We're gonna kind of match them all here together in just a minute using white paint. But I'm gonna clean up my brush using a small brush. If you have another small brush, feel free to grab it. If you want to clean off the brushes, put those right in your water cup, clean those well. This paint is thick. We don't want it to stick. Okay, so what you can do to really highlight these bows is a couple things. Let me just minimize my chat window here. Okay, so what you can do is inside the bow, you can add in a few white lines. Inside the bow on the bottom side and on the top side. It's just doing a little bit of white highlighting. And you can eyeball this. You can do as much or as little as you want. You don't need a ton of white paint. It's just a little bit to capture your eye. See that? So I did it on the underside of the top, like these are all inside of the bow. They're not on the exterior. To say that the light is hitting on the inside of the bow. I did a little bit on the inside of the knot, like where the round center of the bow is. I do a little bit down the tail. You all got this, you're pros. You can see those bows are starting to jump out a little bit. And I'm gonna do the same thing with the green one. Along the top side of the bow, along the bottom, a little bit on the inside, a little bit down the left tail, a little bit down the right tail. Now there's a lot of ways, if you don't like how structured this might be, you can always kind of round it a little bit. You can add a little bit of a rounded shape. You can play with it a little bit. Mine are kind of boxy more than rounded, so you can see how mine are a little bit more like the green one isn't so rounded, but I can always round the edges if I wanted to. The other thing I'll share as a final tip is there's a little bit of outlining with the candy canes, which I really like. So I'm going to do it to be courageous. So if anybody wants to try it with me, this is the last step, I promise. Using a thin brush around the neck of the candy cane coming down is an outline here. And then on the inside of the candy cane is an outline here. So it's just kind of highlighting the shape on the canvas. See that? So if anybody wants to add anything like that, you can. I am just going to do a little bit of this and a little bit of that. Kind of come down. It's just a little added touch if you wanted to make your candy canes jump out a little bit more. And it's not it's just outside of the candy cane line. It's in the green area. And if you don't like that, you can always paint over it. but tons of little details. You all were super troopers. I hope that you had so much fun with our inspiration tonight. I thought it was really fun and different. I love the glitter, was not planning on that. But I'm gonna unpin myself here so I can check in with each of you. Let me remove my spotlight. Okay, Melody, I'm gonna pin yours because I wanna see this glitter up close. Yes, amazing. I love it, great work. All right, let's see here. Here's Sharon and Claudia's. Excellent job. So some of you went with both, some of you didn't. That works. What else you guys got? Let me see. There's Gail's, Leslie, Sandra. Oh, Sandra, your bows look so nice. Leslie, work in progress. They look great. Take your time. Lisa, nice job. Oh, Lisa has tiny bows. And Lisa wrote joy differently. I love that, Lisa. There's Miss Gail's. Gail, you're in the spirit over there. Look at that holiday painting you just painted. All right. Here comes Miss
glitter in
Lisa.
I put glitter in the joy. Glitter.
Oh, you did?
Yeah, in the
Oh,
O.
awesome. All right, I'm going to get a quick group photo so we can share with our friends at AARP Vermont. A big thank you for having us. So take a minute, hold your paintings up, turn on your video. If you don't want to, you don't have to. But I'll give everyone a good 10 seconds here to, yes, and that Marie has her hat on. Marie, high five to you. Amazing.
Oh,
all right, even if your paintings aren't done, don't worry. All right, here's the countdown, ladies. I'm going to count to 10. 10, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2. Here comes Barb. 1. Cheese. All right, I got it. I want to wish you all a really happy holiday. I hope you had fun with this one. I'm going to grab everybody's contact information out of the chat, but I wish you all a very happy holiday. Be sure to be in touch with me if you want to get into January's class. I'll make sure you're part of it because we want to keep this inclusive as possible.
Thank you, Megan. Can we sign up for January yet through AARP?
January is probably sold out.
They're full already.
Oh, wow. Okay.
So send me a note in the chat with your name and your email. And if you have your own supplies, I will personally email you the Zoom link so you can participate.
Okay. Get down, kitty.
Okay, awesome. Well, I want to thank you all for being here. I hope you had fun. I hope you were like, you embraced the glitter and the candy canes and the holiday spirit. Next year, we're going to go back to doing nature and more serious things. All right.
Thank you, Megan. Thank you.
Merry Christmas.
Merry Christmas to you
Merry
all.
Christmas.
Enjoy the pie. Life's too short.
Yeah.
All right. I'm going to grab everyone's contact information. If I can help anybody with final touches, please let me know. I'm going to make sure everyone enters the information they need to before I grab the data. And I'm going to save our picture too to share with our friends at AARP. And I'll put that in the folder too so everybody can see everybody's. Thank you so much for coming.
There.
So many wonderful notes. AARP Vermont, December 8th.
Thank you for the music too.
Oh, did you like the music?
I did. It's beautiful.
Oh, isn't it? Oh my gosh.
It is.
Megan,
dreamy.
Megan, did you get my contact info? I sent it to you directly instead of everyone.
Yes, I got it. Leslie?
Okay. Yes.
Yes, I got you.
Okay, great. So if we have our own supplies, you'll send us the picture and the link?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, great. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you so much for coming.
Happy holidays.
Happy holidays to you. All right. All right, I'm going to grab the information. I'm also going to stop the recording here.